Yeah, my general. So yeah, we're there in the evening. So yeah, my general.
Greetings.
Yeah, man. Can put up the mic here, man.
Yeah, man. Greetings.
Yeah, so we just want to ask an honest opinion on a topic, you see me?
Yeah.
Do you believe that the government should be policed, meaning there should be a certain laws that governs the government?
Well, I'm not going to tell a lie. Yes, to me, yeah, because you don't know everything run under order and it's nice when we have rules so everybody can abide by, you get me?
Yeah, okay. So should the government on a yearly basis declare their assets and belongings to the public and tell how they come by them?
Well, I'm not going to tell a lie. You see, to me, from them around anybody who in power, whether PMP or JLP, to me, there is levels, you get me, and to be honest, if I trust somebody and decide to them around the country, I'm not going to take it up for a question the loyalty of them. I expect them to just do the right, you get me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, the government act of wanting to remove the Auditor General from the Integrity Commission is kind of threatening to the people of the country trust in our Prime Minister. Do you think so? That the fact that he wants to remove the Auditor General kind of threatens the people's trust? Can they trust him knowing that he wants to remove a person that should keep him in check and in line?
Well, I'm not going to tell a lie. This is a good question. You get me? And what I can really answer and make you know with my honest opinion is that sometimes things not go the way it seems. You get me? Enough time things have to get dirty before it get pretty. You get me? So I understand say by removing it, it probably seems threatening because people want to know what really are going, how them money are spent, how them money are going to the country and them thing there. But as I tell you, me as a man now, I don't believe in a questioning loyalty. If I decide to say you're the leader, and I look up to you and decide to say you're rare, I believe say yo, any move where you make are the correct move for me.
Okay, do you think that the Prime Minister should ask the citizens for permission to remove the Auditor General since they elected him? Since the people elected him?
Well, man, I'm going to tell you like, yes, him can, alright. Not saying that him will do what them say, but you don't know, people opinion do matters. What's for no say, yo, use the country leader. You get me, and the country look up to this special man. Yeah, you're going to need opinion, you're going to need to know how everybody feel about this, you get me? Yeah, so me believe say, yo, yeah.
Okay, alright. So, he wants to remove the Auditor General and the opposition do not want that. The opposition is not okay with that. And we're also not sure if Jamaica is okay with that and majority of the population. So do you think the Prime Minister is moving in such a dictator?
Well,
that he's just doing things what he wants to do and what he thinks?
For tell you the truth, all of this come with leadership. All of this come with leadership, and sometimes I'm not going to tell a lie. Prime Minister, if you do things that shady in our country, it will come to you. Why not the dark must come to the light? You get me? But all the thing me can say from my view is that I'm not going to question your loyalty. I help elect and sit with say, yo, I help voting that you are here, and I decide say you're going to make me think in myself that you are here to make a difference. I could just say that you're going to definitely do. You get me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, so do you...
It's a tape?
Yeah, it's a tape now.
Hot water, big up hot water. When you see the police stove, put on the hot water. Subscribe. Hit that.
Hot water channel, straight to the max. Bring the thing to the people then. Original generous speed. Same way. Man, big up hot water channel, enough ice cream. Yeah man, big up yourself.
Make sure that we have a system of delivering the services in communities that are being delivered by those who are closest to the communities in terms of governance. That's why local government is so important. And the things like solid waste lend themselves to being better managed by persons who are close to the people and who the people can hold accountable much more readily for their performance. So that is some of the thinking that we have. And you know, we have with us Joan Gordon, Comrade Joan, who is a former head of the National Solid Waste Authority and who who, you know, ran it at a level which we haven't seen since. And, you know, so I just want to pick her up and say, you know, yeah. Within the People's National Party, we have the talent to manage and we have the acumen to manage these things well. And we intend to do so when we come back into the
Thank you so much, Presido. We'll take the final 3 questions and we'll wrap. Please identify yourself.
Thank you. My name is Ralston Nunes. I'm from Vice Chairman of West Rural St. Andrew. First of all, let me thank you for what I think was 4 absolutely wonderful presentation. It was worth being here. It's not really a question, maybe it's a sensitization, but I think that one of the most underlooked, underappreciated sector of the society. And if you try to quantify in monetary terms what they contribute to the country, maybe it would bog your mind. But the charity organizations, the Kiwanis, the Rotary, Lions, etc., they face tremendous problem in terms of not only getting the charity status, but maintaining it. And other times we have donation that is sitting on the wall and has to be returned or is no longer good. So we just want to sensitize you that you need to look at that sector and see what we can do to make it a little bit easier, because indeed these are some very valuable institutions. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Patrick Smellins, and from West Rural St. Andrew, and I'm happy to know that June God Webley is so known and is actually considered a hard worker, and as some people shout out, the best. So she's came to the constituency and been working hard and convinced me to work with her. But my concern, and I want to direct it to the leader, the party leader, what are your plans in fixing our roads? Because we have seen the government over the years patching and fixing the road, and they will do it, fix this road in the last 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 months, and there it goes again. So it must be a plan. I heard you recently saying that there will be a maintenance plan. And from I get back from the States, I've been saying the same thing. And I was so happy to hear you say that your party will be coming with a maintenance plan. And I think that is crucial for our roads today, because we can't continue with these type of roads that we're having. I think West Rural have seen some of the worst road condition right now. The poor, I would have resigned. I could have never resigned as a MP or a councillor with the condition of these roads, especially the school vicinities. It's disgraceful. And so I would love to know if this party has a plan, you know, to better manage and fixing these roads. One other thing quickly is our youths coming out of school, joining the corner with a slip and a little cup. We need to see some changes starting from these young men coming out of high school. Almost no hope. I wonder when some of our ladies, we see them going to universities, seeking higher education, who are they going to be marrying to? Because these are just thugs coming out. Everybody just want a slip and want to join a corner. So I'm saying we must have a plan for these young people coming out of our schools, some training centers, and every MP should have a plan to begin to look at how we can help our young men especially. Alright, thank you. Again, I just want to
mirror what everybody has said. We really have to congratulate our Prime Minister in waiting and his team. They have done a fantastic job with just engaging us, the ordinary Jamaican citizens, from Negril to Moran Point. Something that we thought was a thing of the past with this uncaring government. So it's encouraging for me, and I want to just ask Prime Minister, there are two areas of concern. The lack of green spaces for create like parks, and a lack of that is why we're having what this gentleman just talked about, where the crushing of hand middle is the typical social event for youngsters. We have lost some community centers to developments, so we have a lot of concrete going up. I'm going to ask that you consider the specialists in the area of housing or construction, that they mandate that for every approval of gated communities, there has to be a designation for a green space for those communities, youngsters, for families to interact in a normal way. Like when we were younger, there were always a park or a community center. And without that, our children are going to become adults before they are children. So I'm asking that you put that in, if it can be incorporated legally in the town planning laws, that every gated development cannot be approved if there's not that requisite green space for the families of those areas to interact in normalcy. Also another concern I have, which I'm hoping will be addressed, that travesty that had happened to those unfortunate people whose houses were almost at completion in Bernard Lodge, and through strange means they were demolished, even though there was manifestation of them having ownership certificates from our previous Prime Minister, Portia Simpson Miller. So how can we legally prevent such a travesty from ever happening again? Because up to now, I'm sure a lot of Jamaicans are still not aware of whatever happened to those unfortunate people in terms of legal redress. And I'm hoping that it is not true. I've been hearing rumors of the ownership of all these people's homes being reverted to somebody who I won't mention, but I hope it's not so. Because if it was legally theirs, what framework are you going to put in place to make sure that these people's rights are protected in terms of their property? I mean, it was heartrending when I think of that lady admitting that she used to push wheelbarrows with cement at people's side to build hers, and to have it demolished is scary. So I'm just asking that you address that.
Thank you very much. We can go ahead and begin our answers.
Yeah. So we have, yes.
Then we have
Right.
yes.
Yes.
And then we have
Right. Okay, well, I sympathize with the concern that you've expressed about how the charitable sector, including service clubs and others, are finding it so hard to remain compliant with the regulatory environment that has been imposed on them. Now, to some extent, this is not driven by Jamaican policymakers, but by the Western countries that have this organization called the Financial Action Task Force that exerts pressure on countries like ours to reduce the risk of money laundering and terrorism financing, and have these lists, you've heard of them, blacklisting, grey-listing, where countries that are not seen to have the necessary procedures and laws in place to reduce those risks are subject to pressure, where even their banking system can be cut off from the international financial community. So this is why some of these very onerous laws have been passed. Now, in my opinion, there needs to be a differentiation between smaller charities and the rules that should apply to them and the requirements imposed on them, as opposed to much larger organizations that have greater resources to devote to that type of compliance. In the same way that in our company law, smaller companies can adopt systems of accounting and production of financial statements which are less burdensome on them than larger companies have. There should be a similar differentiation so that our smaller charities, there are many, and I am associated with one with persons with disabilities and the Sir John Bowling Rehab Center, where I've been struggling like others to ensure compliance, and it's an ongoing battle. But I believe that there is room for advocating with the international bodies as to why there should be a differentiation between, just in the same way when it comes to know your customer requirements and financial inclusion, that smaller customers should be given less, there should be a more easily surmounted procedure for onboarding somebody into the banking system.
So the answers to those questions.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank the representative of the MSME community that came and has voiced their questions at this forum, and I'm grateful for your participation in this lively atmosphere. The MSME phenomenon is vital to economic development because it is a fact that much of the employment in the country is generated by small businesses, and it is also a means of social mobility in the country, where persons who may have been historically disenfranchised, excluded, are able to pull themselves and their families out of poverty and into a much better quality of life for themselves. So from that perspective, the People's National Party sees the strategic importance of supporting MSMEs, because we are big believers in social mobility and transforming our colonial society into a society based on the principles of equity and fairness and access to opportunities for all. So we're also mindful of the fact that resources have been provided to the DBJ over many years by out of budgets, and also what they call credit enhancement through guarantee support, and it is not being taken up. A lot of the funds are not being dispersed. And so clearly there is a structural problem in the distribution of those resources to the sector for which it is intended, which is the MSME sector. We intend to get to the bottom of this and to identify how and what needs to happen so that those resources are taken up and are made accessible to the MSMEs who need capital to grow. We agree that lending cannot be the only modality for this. In my own constituency, I run a grant program for MSMEs, which is very straightforward. I won't go into the details of how you access it, but it is very straightforward to access it. And we have helped literally, I would say, hundreds of entrepreneurs with relatively modest but important grant funding to support their business growth. And nationally, I think we need a program that accepts that the state can absorb some costs because it's going to pay itself back through economic growth, which will generate revenue for the government that will actually exceed the cost to the public purse of the grant support. So yes, we do see a need for different modalities of finance, of which loans are just one, grants are another, equity is a third. Some of our entrepreneurs need to understand that owning 100% of something small is often less valuable than a lesser percentage of something that has a capacity to grow and take it to the nut. And in business, I've personally benefited from that approach more than once. So I commend it to all entrepreneurs as a way of thinking about this. So the answer is yes, we'll be looking at different modalities of distribution of funding. And it's critical that the DBJ focus on the outcomes of what they're trying to do and work back from that in terms of how they tailor their policies, rather than setting the policies and saying, well, it's not really working, but what can we do about it? And that is a different philosophy of that's how we would approach this particular matter. Yes, the matter of which you spoke, we're working on that. Hastings, I don't want to say anything yet because we haven't reached the point where we're ready to say anything, but we are working on it. As you can imagine, there's a lot going on at this time in terms of focusing on readiness for the elections, which we think are going to be close in time. So that's our #1 focus. But we are also paying attention to that issue. And of course, once we become government, it's a whole different story. Yes, sports. I'm going to let my colleague here, Comrade Hicklin, speak to it, but I will just tell you this. From my standpoint as a chairman of one of the leading Premier League clubs in Jamaica, and perhaps with the biggest fan base, I do see the need for the state to get behind sports at the community level and to invest in, I would say in particular, infrastructure, the physical facilities, in the case of football, playing surfaces, so that we can have the standards improved, because there is tremendous potential in sports to grow GDP and to create avenues for people from communities which are underserved and who may not be academically inclined to become top earners in the country. I mean, I've seen it in my own situation where, you know, I saw a player like Ronaldo, Cephas or Karim Dixon, these are guys in their young 20s, and they're earning now significantly to come. They're earning significantly more, and I know you have an interest in that. They're earning significantly more than degreed, you know, youngsters who have excel academically and are in the job market for more conventional forms of career. So sports is part of it, and I'll let Debbie speak to it.
In his wisdom, party leader identified particular people with specialist information to shadow particular areas, to be spokespersons for particular areas for the purposes of the shadow cabinet, which means that Wavell Hines, Comrade Wavell Hines, is our spokesperson for sport. He has made a presentation to the shadow cabinet. That presentation speaks extensively to a development agenda for sport. At the moment, it sits as a part of a portfolio. When the election is won, the party leader will make a determination as to how the governance configuration will be, and we will leave it to him to do that. Only to say that sport has been considered in different ways in different governments. It is seen in some governments as physical culture and is seen to fall under culture, but it is also seen in other areas. There is an ability to separate it, to give it its specialist attention. So we will see where it goes, but I am very, very clear, and I think the entire cabinet is clear about the importance of sport, particularly in Jamaica, and a development agenda for sport. Culture and sport need very similar kinds of treatments for development, and so there is always going to be some form of synergy.
Yeah man, thank you guys so much for the inquisition. Since I've been back in Montego Bay in 2019, we have created what we call the Make Jamaica Safe program. SAFE there is an acronym for sports, arts and artistry, financial literacy and economics. We have a website, safejamaica.com, www.safejamaica.com. You can go and log on to that website and see all the wonderful work that we've been doing in Montego Bay. Having recognized that the sporting industry was on the decline, especially in inner city communities in Montego Bay, when I was growing up, a lot of the communities had their own teams. For example, I played for Mount Salem. I won the SDC under 15. We also won it under 17. We came third All Ireland. And since the Jamaica Labour Party has been in power, we've recognized that a lot of the sporting community intervention programs have been on the decline. And we decided to take up that mantra. I started the Montego Bay Futsal Championships, which has been very successful over the last 6, 7, 8 years in bringing communities together, bringing rival fractions from different parts of communities together, and contributing to the peace and stability that we've been seeing in Montego Bay. As it relates to the stadium, we have been very inquisitive, and as a matter of fact, I think I have an article coming out this Sunday in the Gleaner that speaks to a lot of the challenges that the city faces, and the sporting complex is one of them. To my understanding now, the parish council has privatized the institution to a particular club, and that club now they have been given the responsibility to upgrade the facilities. But it is disheartening when you have to have Western Championships being held in Eastern parishes. And when you look at Kingston and you count the amount of Chevron tracks that are here, the National Stadium is UWI, UTEC, Calabar, KC, JC, about 10. And there are none in Western Jamaica. And that is why we have offered ourselves to lead that community of remarkable people, because the leadership being afforded to them is nonchalant and out of touch and uncaring, and don't understand what it takes to offer a diverse array of avenues for our people to, one, make their livelihoods, and to two, engage themselves. Even Trelawney multifunctional stadium is a challenge as well. All these stadiums have been neglected by the Jamaica Labour Party. Sports has been neglected by the Jamaica Labour Party, and it will take a People's National Party government to reignite and pump back some fuel into the life of all the people.
Thank you, Debbie and Andre. On the last point about solid waste, garbage disposal, two things I would say. First of all, we believe that that the local authorities must have a bigger role in the delivery of garbage collection services. That the solid waste management authority should be a regulatory body primarily, and just in the same way the KCMC is doing such excellent work now under the leadership of our mayor. We want to see what they can do by empowering them and resourcing them and other local authorities to take on greater responsibility for keeping the localities, municipality areas clean. We also want to see that our solid workers in the solid waste industry are put on a proper footing, that their employment terms and conditions are in keeping with their rights as workers, and so that they are no longer vulnerable to being treated in particular ways based on maybe political affiliation or other concerns. We get the reports, we hear the things that are going on, so we want to stand up and make sure that our workers in the